It was around 2 a.m., and the hallways were barely illuminated, casting eerie shadows in my tiny cell. I lay there, arms tucked behind my head, lost in thought instead of sleeping. I could only see outlines and dark shapes. My mind kept drifting to memories I desperately wanted to forget. Footsteps echoed, and I began to count. 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I spotted him. His face was as hard and impassive as everyone else here. He was just doing his rounds, not looking to make friends. I did not know if he saw me, but it did not matter. He was out there, and I was in here. When he moved past, I stopped counting. No point. He would not return for another 92 minutes. I stared up, thinking about what I would do once I got out. 5 days and a wake-up, and I would be free. I had served about 7 months of my 1-year sentence. My job was waiting for me, but everything else was different. My older brother, Dave, had taken care of my car, managed my house, and looked after my dwindling savings. Was I still mad? Mad did not even begin to cover it, but I had to push those feelings down until I was out. I now understood why men doing long sentences came out as shells. You leave your humanity at the door when you come in. Survival is key, and this place is a paradise compared to the hardcore prison up north. I closed my eyes, hoping to snatch a few hours of sleep. I missed my old room with its blackout curtains, but I knew my life would never be the same. "I will be there to pick you up next Tuesday," Dave told me during our last visit in the visitor center. We looked at each other through the plexiglass, hopefully for the last time. "What do you want for your first meal out? A steak? A big one? Medium rare?" Dave grinned. "Steve, you are too easy. I thought you would ask for something tougher to sneak past my wife. You will stay with Laura and me until you get back on your feet. There's no food or much furniture left in your house. This gives you time to sort things out. It is not the Ritz, but it is clean, and you will have your own space." He smiled. "Thanks," I started to say, but he cut me off. "Forget it. We are family. That is what we do. Do not stress about Mom and Dad. They will come around eventually." But we both knew that would not be any time soon. Emotions were high on both sides. "Have you seen my kids lately?" 2 weekends ago at Mom and Dad's. Heather looks the same, but John has this ridiculous bowl cut that is trendy now. It looks terrible. I told him so. You know what he said? He said I was not his dad and did not have to listen to me. I wanted to smack him, but Mom was there. You will have your hands full with that one. John would not have dared say something like that if I was around. Even though I was his dad, he and his sister would stay with their mom after I got out. I had time, plenty of it, once I was out of this place. I would wait for the right moment. No rush. Even though the divorce was final, I still owned half the house. Kathy owed me about $65,000 to buy me out. She probably raided our safe deposit box, taking all our bonds and CDs. Luckily, I gave my lawyer a list of everything so there would not be any dispute when I got out, which would be soon. Kathy and my ex-friend Bob really did me dirty, but that was in the past. I was caught off guard the first time, and it would not happen again. I was waiting, remembering, and looking forward to better days when I got out of this hellhole. Only then could I start fresh. I hoped I could hold it together until then. Before jail, life was good because I never saw it coming. Weeks before, some so-called friends hinted they knew something, but never said anything. What were they thinking? Did they think I knew and was okay with it? Everyone must have known I would never have tolerated it. But people did not want to get involved. We had a great marriage, I thought. 12 years, 2 kids, a nice house, and good jobs. Sure, we had minor disagreements, but I loved my wife and never imagined what she was capable of. We did not have many friends, just a few couples from the neighborhood. Most had been married over 7 years and were about our age. We all had at least 2 kids, except Tom and his wife Lisa. They had been trying to have a child forever with no luck. Kathy probably knew why, but I tried to stay out of everyone's personal business. Lisa started drinking heavily about a year ago. At first she was just sad, but then it got ugly. Tom drank little, taking care of her. "Tom, honey, get me another drink," she would start. By the end of the night she would be demanding drinks, and Tom had to carry her home. It was sad, but his problem, not mine. Lisa was a mess tonight, I said, getting ready for bed. I think she passed out more than once. Greg and Judy probably left early because she started undressing and asked Greg to help her. No one was letting her near the pool. I felt sorry for Tom, my wife said. Lisa is devastated about not having kids, but taking it out on Tom is not the answer. I told her she could adopt, but she would not hear it. She blamed Tom for their problems. They will either work it out or get divorced, I said. We're supposed to go out to dinner. The next week I hoped Connie would keep herself in check, but I was not counting on it. I will talk to her this week. Maybe she will behave for one night, my wife said, trying to sound hopeful. Connie did not cool it. Waiter, how is a girl supposed to get a drink around here? She yelled, slurring. She started berating Bob again, and he was about to snap when I stepped in. Come on, Connie, you promised me a dance, I said, guiding her to the dance floor. She resisted, but I insisted. I danced with her for 3 songs while my wife comforted Bob, who looked miserable. When we got near the hallway, Connie excused herself to the ladies' room. After 5 minutes, I wondered what to do. I asked 2 women heading in to check on Connie. Is she wearing a bright yellow dress? One of them asked, peeking out of the restroom. When I nodded, she sighed. She is passed out in a stall. If you want, I will stand guard while you get her. I went in, propped her up by the sink, and splashed cold water on her face. It helped briefly, but then she collapsed again. I practically carried her back to our table. Bob, let me help you get Connie to your car. She is out cold and will not wake up any time soon, I said, holding a very drunk Connie. Bob looked embarrassed and frustrated. Steve, I have got it. Sit down. This is not the first time, but it will be the last. Despite his objections, I carried her out while he grabbed her purse and muttered his goodbyes. I laid Connie on the back seat and patted Bob's shoulder. Sorry, man, was all I could say. Thanks for your help. I am at my wit's end and do not know what to do. You two need counseling. You cannot fix this alone. If you need support, call Kathy and me. We will help however we can. All right, he replied, though I knew it was just for show. Their problems seemed too deep to fix. I gave them a couple of months, tops. I was not far off, but no one expected what happened next. 3 weeks later, just after 10:30 p.m. on a Thursday, we heard sirens and saw flashing lights at the end of our block. Everyone rushed outside to see what was happening. Kathy, stay here. I will check it out. I joined the crowd and saw the fire rescue team prying open Bob's car door. What is going on? Is Bob okay? It is not Bob, it is Connie. They were arguing. She grabbed his keys, ran out, and sped down the street. She did not get far. Connie rear-ended a parked car at about 40 miles per hour. The ambulance arrived, loaded her onto a stretcher, and drove off with Bob in tow. Their front door was wide open, lights still on, and the house in chaos. I called Kathy and told her what happened, then locked up Bob's house, leaving a note that I had his keys. How is Connie? My wife asked when I got home. Not good. She was not wearing a seatbelt and swerved before hitting the car. The airbag deployed, but her head smacked the driver's side window hard enough to shatter it. She was doing about 35 miles per hour. Bob's with her at the hospital. We will wait. Should we go down there? He has got his hands full. We will go tomorrow when things settle. Right now, let us get to bed. Tomorrow will come fast. We kissed goodnight but barely slept, worried about Connie. At 11 o'clock the next morning, my phone rang. Steve, Connie is on life support, my wife yelled. I am leaving work. Bob is a mess. Someone needs to be there. Meet me at the hospital, she said frantically before hanging up. Damn, the guy could not catch a break. On the way, I grabbed lunch for the 3 of us and called Kathy's parents to pick up the kids after school. I walked quietly into the waiting room where my wife and others were comforting Bob. How is she doing? I asked. Not good, my wife whispered. The doctor had spoken to Bob and he had not said much since. Bob, I said, sitting next to him, you okay? It was a dumb question, but I needed an opening. Steve, she is not going to get better. There is barely any brain activity. I do not know what to do, he started to cry. I motioned for everyone to give us space. Has anyone told Connie's parents? They are on their way, Steve. The hospital staff keeps asking about a living will and donor card. It feels like vultures circling. The doctor asked if I would consider pulling the plug if she is brain dead. For Christ's sake, she is my wife, not a piece of meat, he was shouting now. Why cannot they just fix her? They are doctors. Cannot they fix her? I had no answer. Connie's parents arrived shortly after and went into a room with Bob. There was a lot of loud crying and cursing. Her father seemed to blame Bob for Connie's condition. The doctor went in, and about 20 minutes later, everyone came out. Her parents left heartbroken, knowing they would never talk to their daughter again. We left the hospital around 8 o'clock and picked up the kids from Kathy's parents' house. I kept thinking, God, I hope I never have to make that choice. 48 hours later, with Bob, Connie's parents, and the doctor in the room, the decision was made. They turned off the machine, keeping Connie alive, and she passed away quietly. We did our best to comfort Bob. Despite her difficult behavior, Bob truly loved her. Funerals tend to bring out the good memories, not the bad ones. The funeral was packed, and everyone was in tears. Bob took it hard, eventually taking a month off to visit his family back east. I assured him we would look after his place. I love you. You know that, do not you? I said to my wife while getting ready for bed. It had been an exhausting few weeks, and things were slowly returning to normal. If I ever end up like Connie, just pull the plug. I would not want to be kept alive by a machine. Steve, do not say that. It could never happen to us. Bob came back a few weeks later, somewhat functional. Kathy helped him sort through Connie's belongings. After 3 months, he seemed to be coming to grips with it. We made sure he was included in social events. Neighbors even set him up on a few dates, but nothing came of them. Life went on, or so I thought. 6 months later, Bob seemed to get his spark back. Seeing him smile and enjoy himself again was a relief. He was socializing, and we had our old Bob back. In hindsight, maybe I missed some signs. Kathy and I were still close, but something felt off. We were physically engaged as often as before, but something had changed. After a few months, I asked Kathy if something was bothering her. Nothing really, Steve. Why do you ask? You seem a little distant lately. Everything is fine, she smiled. Maybe you have not been getting enough love-making. If you want more, just ask. Love-making, I thought. She had never called it that before. Always making love. I smiled, kissed her, and pushed the thoughts away. I will never forget Friday, August 20th. It was the day my world fell apart. Kathy called me at work to say the kids would be with her folks for the weekend and asked what time I would be home. I will make sure I am home early. Need me to pick up anything? No, just let me know when you will be home. All right. A million thoughts ran through my mind. It was 3:30, an hour and a half before I could leave. I adjusted my pants, thinking about the fun weekend ahead. I drove home carefully to avoid a speeding ticket, but still made it in 28 minutes. I should have suspected something when I saw 2 cars in the driveway, but one was Bob's. Hey, honey, I am home, I called out. Bob and Kathy were in the kitchen. Hey, Bob, what is going on? Steve, I need to talk to you. Please, have a seat. Kathy looked nervous, her voice trembling. I will just stand, I said. Steve, I wanted to tell you myself before you get the papers. I was confused. Kathy, what papers? She stepped back. Divorce papers. She could barely say it. My heart skipped a beat. Kathy, what are you talking about? What divorce papers? Steve, Bob started, but I cut him off. Bob, stay out of this. This is between me and my wife. Then it hit me. I looked at her, then at him, then back at her. Bob, you should leave now, I said, my hands clenching into fists. Kathy, you and I need to talk now, I shouted. Bob, stay, my wife said. Steve, this involves him too. Bob, leave now or you will be leaving in a body bag, I warned. He headed for the door. Kathy, we need to talk. Steve, there is nothing to talk about. I am in love with Bob. I am sorry. How long has this been going on? Even before Connie died, Bob interrupted. His eyes were burning with anger. Steve, you do not know anything. Oh, I know enough. While I was consoling you, you were screwing my wife. Get out of my house, both of you. Steve, it is my house too, Kathy said. Not anymore. Get out. I will get my things and leave. No, leave now. Kathy, let us go, Bob said, pulling her to the door. Listen to him, I taunted. Steve, I will come back for my stuff when you have cooled down. You will be dead by then, I spat. They left, eyes fixed on me. After they left, I lost it. 2 beers and a lot of destruction later, the house was a mess. I threw all of Kathy's belongings on the lawn and set the sprinklers to run for 4 hours. Then I locked the house and drank until I passed out. The next morning I saw Kathy had taken her stuff. I was still angry and devastated. I did not call anyone to tell them what happened, but I figured the neighbors knew. I called Kathy's parents to talk to my kids, but her mom would not let me. Steve, Kathy picked them up last night. Nonsense, Fran. She in the living room, just to take the chill off. James, quit talking crazy. I am sorry about all of this, but you are making it harder. Why cannot you just accept it and move on? I will move on when you send my kids back home. James, I cannot, especially in your current frame of mind. I do not think you damaged them, but I cannot take that chance. After this is over, I will let you see them as much as you want, but I cannot say the same about you and Bob. This is the last time I am talking to you. From now on, you will have to go through my attorney. I am sorry it happened this way. Lisa, you have no idea how sorry you and Bob are going to be. She hung up. At my court date, my attorney pleaded temporary insanity, arguing my actions were impulsive after Lisa's revelation. Lisa and Bob claimed they feared for their lives and mentioned a restraining order. Mr. Moore, the judge said, did you tell Mr. Kelly that if he did not leave, he would be leaving in a body bag? I do not remember my exact words, Your Honor. It may have been something like that, but how would you feel if a friend was with your wife behind your back? The judge was unimpressed, and my lawyer quietly reprimanded me. James, say nothing. Do you understand? From now on, you do not remember a thing. Is that clear? I am trying to prove you did not know what you were doing, and your comments are not helping. He was right. Chris, my boss and main character witness, backed me completely. He testified that I was a model employee, never losing my temper. After his testimony, the case closed, and we awaited the judge's decision, which would come in a few days. Back at work, my boss offered to have some thugs make Bob and Lisa disappear. I declined, preferring to handle it my way. I wondered what that service might have cost. 6 months and 112,000 later, I ended up screwed by both my ex-wife and the system. The divorce went through, and she got 50% of everything. The house and all valuable items were to be sold. She claimed her jewelry was missing and accused me of taking it. I countered that mine was gone too, suggesting she took it all. You are in jail. Are they nuts? I yelled at my attorney after the judge's sentence. James, it could be worse. You could have been convicted of manslaughter. With good behavior, you will be out in less than 8 months, and your record will be clean in 2 years. Do the time, get out, and move on. Easy for him to say. I was not looking forward to spending 24 hours a day in jail. I appealed but got nowhere. Within a year, my life went from great to terrible thanks to Lisa and Bob. James, your job will be waiting when you get out. Do not do anything stupid and watch your back, Chris advised. After a final visit with my kids, I turned myself in. I started my sentence in the county facility. My brother put money in my inmate account, but most items available were junk. Without a cell phone or computer, I wrote my thoughts on paper and made bi-weekly collect calls to my brother, mom, and kids to stay updated. During a visit, my brother said, I will have your car repaired before you get out. I found someone to do it for the insurance payout. I am taking care of your lawn and installed the new deadbolts. Lisa took the rest of her and the kids' clothes but left the furniture after I insisted on a court order for removal. I was glad my brother was looking out for me. Lisa allowed my parents to see the kids every other Sunday but badmouthed me and my family. She called me their jailbird father and planned to set strict rules when I got out. My parents tolerated her to keep communication open. After 7 days, I confirmed my visitation rights every other weekend, a full month in summer, and shared holidays. I informed my boss. I would need a week to readjust once released, but I was thrilled to trade my orange jumpsuit for street clothes. Mike waited outside and we headed straight to the nearest bar. To freedom, I said, clinking our bottles before downing the first of 3 beers. Andy has a steak dinner with all the trimmings waiting for us. You can stay with us for a few nights until you go through your things at the house. It is still up for sale, but there have not been any offers. Lisa wants to lower the price but needs your approval." I smiled. All the furniture is still there, but I trashed the master bedroom set as you instructed. Dinner was fantastic. I ate more than I had in 8 months, enjoying the freedom to do as I pleased. I drank too much, vaguely remembering 5 or 6 beers and 3 glasses of wine. I woke up after 10 o'clock the next morning and finally managed to get up and hit the bathroom by 11 o'clock. In the kitchen, I found a note on the counter. "If you are reading this, you survived last night. There is coffee made, and everything else is in the fridge. The spare bathroom has soap, a razor, shaving lotion, a toothbrush, and toothpaste. If you need anything else, we will get it tonight. The keys to your car and house are on the key rack by the back door. Do not do anything stupid. See you around 5:30. My brother knew me well. 2 cups of coffee and an English muffin were all I could manage. After a shower and a shave, I felt almost human again. Mike had laid out a fresh change of clothes, and within an hour I headed to my house. The outside looked the same. I sat in my repaired car for 10 minutes before going in. Memories flooded my mind. I saw the new deadbolt, and with a turn of the key, I was inside. The place was a mess with things thrown everywhere. Clothes were scattered on the floor. The kitchen was halfway clean, and the refrigerator still had old food. Leaning against the sink, I saw the damage from when my fist punched the wall and found a stud. I rubbed my knuckles, remembering that night. Upstairs, the kids' closets were empty except for a few forgotten mementos. My bedroom was almost empty, except for my dresser and some clothes. The dark spots on the carpet showed where our bed and her dresser had been. The room needed a complete redo before I could use it again. The rest of the house needed a thorough cleaning to be sellable, but I was not in a hurry to sell. I made a list of repairs and decided I just wanted it done, not necessarily by myself. At the bank, I confirmed she had emptied the lockbox. I needed written proof from the bank and was told they had video recordings as additional proof. My attorney confirmed she had taken everything and filed a motion to get it back. The court had already ordered Lisa to return everything she took from the lockbox. "James, she is offering her share of the house for your share of the CDs and bonds. I told her to return everything as directed by the court or face arrest for non-compliance. She can be mad all she wants. My job is to protect your interests." "That is why you hire a lawyer," I thought to myself. Back at my house, I took inventory of what I still had. I noted to call a local contractor to fix the walls and a cleaning service to tackle the kitchen and dining room where I had thrown the microwave and dishes. Utilities were still on, so I could move back in once I bought a bed. I just needed a queen-size bed and found a decent set for $900. At least I would not be sleeping on a mattress that my ex-wife had shared with someone else. Hank, the contractor, came over Saturday morning to give me an estimate. "Your walls are solid. Must have hurt when you punched that stud," he said with a smile. "I just need the holes fixed and a fresh coat of white paint." "Nothing special," I replied. "How about 200? That is low. That is my price. Take it or leave it. You did us a favor with Bob in the car. Most of the guys in the neighborhood look up to you now. Randy even told Linda he would put her in the grave if she ever did what Lisa did to you. You are a neighborhood hero." I thanked him and told him he could start whenever. Within 6 weeks, the bonds and CDs were back in the bank lockbox, and the house was repaired and cleaned. Life was starting to get back to normal. When my kids spent their first weekend with me, it was awkward. I broke the ice. "Kids, I know this is strange, but this is still your home. Say what you need to." My skin is thicker now, and I do not think anything could shock me anymore. "Dad, we love you and are sorry about what Mom did," John said. Heather nodded. "We did not know about Bob until Mom said we were moving to his house. We were not happy and still are not. There was nothing you could do. Even without Bob, your mom and I would not get back together. What we had is over. I am still your dad and I love you. I will always be here for you." We hugged and spent the evening with pizza and a movie. I wanted to slam their mother but decided not to. Our first weekend was a success. We ended up feeling like a family again. life took on a different pace. I got John a proper haircut, and we settled into a routine. Work resumed, my social life was minimal, and the kids filled my days. John joined a soccer team, and Heather started dance classes, keeping me constantly occupied. Everyone except my brother encouraged me to move on and start anew. You are still young. You can meet someone new, get remarried, and start a fresh life. My response was always, forget it. I wasted 14 years on that witch. If I want to stay mad, that is my choice. They had not endured my experiences over the last 2 years. Sometimes, to make the pain go away, you need your pound of flesh, and I intended to get it one way or another. Lisa wanted to lower the house price, but I refused. She was livid, but I did not care, James. It will not sell at this price in this market. We need to drop it by at least 200,000. If you are willing to give up 200,000 of your share, fine. Otherwise, the price stays. Eventually, we divided the bonds and CDs. She blew hers on a new car and a vacation with Bob. I saved mine to start a nest egg. 8.5 months after leaving jail, Bob's house went up in flames while they were at a soccer game. Someone had soaked the electrical box in the back of the house with gasoline. The rear was destroyed, and they lost power. The next day, 2 police officers knocked on my door. At the station, they got nothing from me. I was at a neighborhood party with at least 10 witnesses, I said. James, you were only a block away. You could have done this, one officer accused. Prove it, I replied. When I had had enough, I stood up. Charge me, release me, or I am calling my lawyer. We are releasing you, but keeping an eye on you. Mentally, I checked off my list, 1 down, 2 to go. I offered to take the kids since they could not stay in a powerless house. Repairs would take at least 2 months, so we enjoyed a mini vacation together. James, I know you did it, no matter what the police say, Lisa accused, picking up the kids one night. I do not know what you are talking about. I was with our friends. Too bad you and Bob are not invited anymore. Maybe I could put in a good word, I said sarcastically. Do not bother. We would not go even if they begged us, she responded bitterly. Well, you have each other, and that is all that matters, for now. What is that supposed to mean? She asked, wide-eyed. Nothing, just that you two are lucky to have one another, I smiled. Not just on the inside this time. The kids wanted to spend more time with me, which did not sit well with Lisa or Bob. I heard about shouting matches between Bob and the kids, with them telling him he was not their father. Lisa told me to stop stirring up trouble. Lisa, I do not badmouth you to the kids. You are their mother, and I have told them they have to listen to you. How about Bob? Him? He is a backstabbing idiot who is lucky to be alive. Besides that, he is a nice enough guy. If looks could kill, I would be dead. He is good to your kids. Stop bad-mouthing him to them. Not going to happen. He is nothing to me, and I pray I get to piss on his grave one day. She gave me a deadly look. Not that I would harm him, of course. James, so help me. What are you going to do, Lisa? Cheat on me, divorce me, put me in jail, make my life hell? Oh, wait, you already did all those things. You cannot do any more to me. Go back to your husband and leave me alone. Without another word, she walked away. And to think I once loved her. I watched her go, shaking my head. Work was going great. It took me just a couple of weeks to get back up to speed. Chris soon pushed me to take over 4 more accounts. With no kids or anyone else at home, I had the time. After contacting the customers, I scheduled 2-day trips to each facility to get familiar with their operations. 3 accounts were easy, but TWW Incorporated was different. They were changing their manufacturing process, requiring monthly trips to keep up. The assigned person was knowledgeable but disorganized and arrogant when I pressed for needed data. Chris, if I do not get what we need, it will screw up their system. After 2 calls, I got an intermediary between the engineer and myself. From then on, I met with Monica, who worked directly with the engineer. Steve Monica Bradley, she introduced herself, shaking my hand. She had a degree in process engineering and had been with the company for about 5 years. We worked well together, and she got me everything I needed. 2 weeks before finishing Phase 1, I asked her out to dinner. Monica, I would like to take you and your husband out to dinner as a thank you. The Hilton where I am staying has a great restaurant. How about 6 o'clock? We shook hands and I left the plant by 4:30. After catching up on paperwork and emails, I headed to the restaurant at 6 o'clock. Monica arrived alone. "Where is your husband?" I asked, parking the car. "Steve, I am not married." "Oh, sorry, I assumed," I said, noticing the rings on her hand. "I wear these rings to keep things professional. No one hits on a married woman. Women avoid harassment issues, plus married people seem to get promoted faster. I guess it is because they seem more stable." Monica explained, "I just say he is on the road or something. They do not ask anymore." "Well, you had me fooled. We had a wonderful dinner, and by the end I shared highlights of my last 2 years. I cannot believe they did that to you. That really sucks. Tell me about it, but it is in the past. I am moving on with my life. I was trying to rebuild my life, though revenge was still a priority." "Steve, you are young, and many women would love a guy like you," she said, smiling and blushing. "You are probably right, but I have not had the time or ambition to date again. I am still cautious." "Well, you asked me out, did not you?" "You and your husband," I corrected. "If I had not been married, would you still have asked me out? Probably. You are easy to talk to and not a pathetic twit like my ex." "I will take that as a compliment," she said, laughing. Dinner went great. I left the next day and would not be back for a month. I asked her to call me weekly, especially if anything came up. I started feeling more at ease around women, even those outside my inner circle. We went out most nights when I visited, which was every couple of weeks. I still had trust issues, but was working on them. Phone calls and emails kept us in touch. After a couple of months, we started kissing and more. I was finally ready to take it to the next level. Am I becoming normal again? I wondered. When Monica said she had a conflict Wednesday night, I thought nothing of it. We had been intimate on Tuesday, and I had forgotten to get contraceptives. "Steve, let us plan for a whole evening on Thursday," she said, kissing me. Thursday, I will remember to bring protection, I thought. Wednesday, I looked for a new restaurant on the city map. After 6 trips, I had tried all the local places. I found a nice Indian restaurant about 25 minutes away and decided to give it a try. I ordered a beer and the sampler platter and was ready to relax. I heard a familiar laugh and, to my surprise, saw Monica with another man. They were clearly on more than a first date, holding hands and laughing. I lost my appetite, finished my beer, paid, and left. She did not seem conflicted, I thought. I avoided her on Thursday and went to McDonald's for lunch. By 3 o'clock, Monica was shadowing me, smiling and flirting. "You take care of your conflict last night?" I asked. "Yes, and tonight you are all mine." I found a quiet, intimate Indian restaurant with a fabulous sampler platter. I looked into her eyes. "What type of food is it?" "Indian food." Her face went pale. "I was there last night and saw someone I knew. What are the chances, Monica?" I never blinked. "Steve, I can explain. No need. I got rid of one lying witch. I do not need another." I walked away and cut my trip short. After ignoring 4 emails, I never got another one. Trust issues still plagued me, and Monica had worsened them. I was reassigned to someone else, thankfully a guy. 3 months later, I got an early Christmas present. Bob was run over by a car while crossing the street. Witnesses only saw a black 4-door car with tinted windows, which matched my black BMW. Saturday night, the police came to my house. My neighbor Tom watched as they approached. "Mr. Moore, we would like a word," the shorter officer said. "Sure, no problem." "Tom, I will talk to you later," I told my neighbor. "Mr. Moore, do you own a black BMW 320i?" the other officer asked. "Yes. What is this about?" I replied, joking about a parking ticket. But they did not laugh. "Is the car here?" "Yes, it is in the garage." "What is this about?" I asked. "Sir, we would like to see the car now." I opened the garage. One officer retrieved a camera and started taking pictures of the front right side of my car. "Can you explain these scratches and marks on the bumper?" "Not a clue. After 8 years, some nicks and scratches are normal. Now that I have answered your questions, what is going on and why are you interested in my car?" "Mr. Moore, there was a hit and run yesterday, and witnesses described a black sedan with dark windows like your car." "And like a million others in town," I replied, annoyed. "Why me? Did my license plate match, or did anyone identify me as the driver?" The witnesses only saw the car. Well, as you can see, there is no significant damage to the front end. I can account for my whereabouts from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. yesterday. Why pick on me? Your history with the victim and past threats prompted this visit. Thank you for your cooperation. We will be on our way. Wait, I called as they walked back to their car. Who was hit? Mr. Robert Kelly. I smiled. Is he dead? No, but he is in critical condition. They walked away and I went inside, opened a bottle of wine and ordered a pizza. I ate most of the pizza and drank the entire bottle of wine in celebration. The neighborhood buzzed with gossip about Bob. Some said the guy just could not catch a break, while others declared he got what he deserved. I was in seventh heaven. 2 days later, Bob took a turn for the worse and died. I looked sharp in a new suit, fresh haircut, and polished shoes. I even had my car washed and waxed. The funeral home was not packed, but there were many people outside when I arrived. Conversation stopped as I walked in. I did not sign the book, just walked down the aisle. Kathy turned around and saw me. She looked like she had seen a ghost. My children smiled when they saw me, but Kathy looked shocked. She tried to stop me before I reached the casket, but failed. From the moment I entered, I had been preparing. When I got to the casket, I had plenty in my mouth. I looked at Bob lying peacefully and spat in his face, enough to dribble down onto his shirt. Kathy screamed, crying and calling me every name in the book. This time I smirked openly. 2 down, 1 to go, I said to her. She froze, fear replacing her tears. I warned you, I said softly, and walked out of the now silent funeral home. Over the next month, the cops questioned me twice more at Kathy's insistence. Just because it was not his car does not mean he was not involved, she claimed. They never caught the driver, and after a few months, it was old news. When the patrol car arrived at my driveway, I was expecting it. I locked up my house as my neighbors watched me being taken to the police station again. "Mr. Moore, do you know David Kent?" one detective asked, showing me a picture. "Sure do," I replied. "How do you know Mr. Kent?" "I hired him to watch my ex-wife. He has been on and off for about a month." I pushed the picture back. "Why did you hire Mr. Kent to watch your ex-wife? Since she took up with her now late husband, she seems to have bad luck. My kids live with her, so I hired David to ensure their safety, mostly at night." "Well, your ex-wife reported being followed. She saw Mr. Kent several times and called us. When we picked him up, we found out you hired him," the detective said sarcastically. "Mr. Moore, this borders on harassment, and you might be charged if it continues. I am just looking out for my kids. I do not care what happens to my ex, but my kids are different. If this is a problem, I will rely on your department to ensure their safety. It is not illegal, but it is pushing the limits. Why do not you talk to your ex and work something out? Last time I tried that, I went to jail. They let me go but warned me they would keep an eye on me. They needed a better line. I did not pay David to be inconspicuous. I wanted Kathy to see him. The next guy I hired was even more noticeable, looking like someone from a Hell's Angels movie. He cost $30 an hour and worked 3 hours every fourth night, but he had the effect I wanted. I wanted to drive my ex over the edge. If she had a breakdown, I would get the kids full time. I wanted my family back. "Steve, what the hell do you want?" a distraught Kathy screamed into the phone. "I want you to choke on your spit and die, Kathy." She hung up immediately, shocked. I was waiting on my porch when the police arrived. "You are late," I told the officers. Kathy was charging me with threatening her life, but I had already contacted my lawyer who was waiting at the station. "My client did not threaten his ex-wife," my lawyer told the police. "He expressed a wish, not a threat. She took it as a threat because she is still being followed by people hired by your client. It is not illegal to have someone watched. Unless you have a recording of Mr. Moore threatening to harm Mrs. Kelly, you have no case. Mr. Moore, why do not you move on? She left you. It happens. If she snaps and someone gets hurt, we will come for you." "Is there a way to end this?" I asked my lawyer. "My client wants his children back. If Mrs. Kelly gives up custody, he will back off. That is for the court to decide." "Then we are done here," my lawyer said, and we left. The following Sunday morning, while having breakfast and reading the newspaper on the deck, The doorbell rang. I opened the door to Kathy's parents. "Steve, do you have a minute to talk?" "Sure, come on in," I said. They were dressed for church. "Can I get you a cup of coffee?" "No, thank you." "What brings you here?" I asked. Kathy's father spoke up. "Steve, we know what our daughter did was not right, especially with you going to jail, but she is our only child, and we do not want anything to happen to her. Look, I am not trying to hurt her. She made bad choices and is paying for them. I want my children back. They are better off with me, especially since she is having bad luck. I would hate for something to happen to them if something happens to her." They stared at me, unsure of what to say. "Steve, we will talk to her, but you know how she is," Kathy's mother said, trying to ease the discomfort. "That is where you are wrong. The woman I married would never have cheated or thrown me to the wolves. I do not recognize her now except as the mother of my children. I want her to suffer a horrible and painful end. I do not forgive and I do not forget." They left quickly. I think I made my point. Thursday evening, the visitor I had been expecting finally arrived. It was just after 7 o'clock and getting dark. She must have walked because I did not hear a car. She rang the bell. I looked through the peephole and let her in. She was already angry when she walked through the door. I had expected a phone call, but seeing her in person was better. "Come in, Kathy. Want a drink? Acid hemlock on the rocks," I said, shutting the door behind her. "Very funny. You really are a prick, you know that?" She spat back. "I think we are done here. Nice of you to stop by." "Have a short, miserable life," I said, holding the door open. "I am not leaving until we talk," she replied, sitting down gingerly in the living room. "Suit yourself," I responded, closing the door and heading to get a glass of wine. "What brings you here to our humble abode?" "I still own 50% of this house," she stated. "Less what I have paid since the divorce," I reminded her. "I want this place sold." "What is it going to take to drop the price?" she asked. "An act of God. Are you willing to cover the loss with interest?" I countered. "I just want you out of this neighborhood and away from me," she declared. "That is never going to happen," I said firmly. "You still hate me that much?" she inquired. "More than you can imagine. It was awful how it all went down, but I never intended to get involved with Bob. It just happened," she explained. "Nothing just happens unless he put a gun to your head. You went willingly. Was he so much better in bed that you destroyed our marriage and family?" My anger flared. It was not about the sex. He needed me. He had no one. "We fell in love because we needed each other," she said defensively. "What were you doing, charity work? I needed you. Our kids needed you. Our marriage needed you. But you chose your needy puppy over us." "Now he is dead and a lot less needy," I retorted, smiling as I relished the memory. "I only wish I had been the one driving the car that took him out." "Steve, you have become so hateful. Taking pleasure in someone's misfortune is sick," she admonished. "I would like to say I did this to myself, but you and your lover played a big part. That is a cop-out, Kathy. 60% of marriages fail. Not all spouses go around hating the other," I pointed out. "I do not care about anyone else's marriage but mine." "How long was I the fool?" she asked. "Does it matter?" I questioned. "To me it does." 2 months, 3, 5, she probed. "About 5 months. It just happened the first time, and I almost told you." "I was devastated," she revealed calmly, sounding rehearsed. "But you did not tell me, and you were not that devastated because it kept happening." "How many times did you screw him in our bed?" I demanded. "Never. I would not do that to you," she said angrily. "So it was okay to screw him everywhere else." "Many of our friends saw it but never told me." "You proved you could not be trusted," I retorted. "So where do we go from here?" "This house is our last connection," she said. "What about the kids?" "I am not giving them up. Nothing you say will change that," I asserted. My mind raced. "Kathy, I am not going to convince you. You got full custody because of what you drove me to do. If I had not gone nuts on Bob and his car, I might have had a chance. Bob got what he deserved. Now it is just the two of us." Her eyes widened. "Steve, are you threatening me?" she asked. "Deprive my kids of their mother?" I said, dripping with sarcasm. "Never. But if something should happen, like a heart attack, lightning strike, or an accident, I will make sure the kids always remember you. If you have any last requests, you might want to write them down soon. You never know what might happen." I borrowed that line from a movie where a hitman advised his target to get his affairs in order. I am out of here, Kathy said, standing up. We had 12 good years. I am kind of sorry it ended. She tried to kiss my cheek, but I pushed her back, almost knocking her over. Do not ever touch me again, I warned. You are a 304. She was taken aback. I am sorry, I just thought. You thought what? That we are okay now? You make my skin crawl, I said, my eyes burning with anger. Sorry, she said, flustered and horrified. Do not be, because I am not, I retorted. She walked out and started down the driveway. By the way, you know that look you just gave me? Bob had the same look right before the car ran over him. Too bad I did not have a camera to show you, I added. I shut the door, watching Kathy run for her house. In truth, I was the one who started the fire at Bob's house. 2 Gatorade bottles of gasoline and a lit cigarette were all it took. I made sure everyone was out of the house. I hoped it would not be reported to the fire department until the house was fully engulfed. So much for that plan. It took less than 5 minutes from start to finish, including tossing the plastic Gatorade bottles into a neighbor's recycle bin. I had excused myself to go to the bathroom, slipped out the side door, and went through the backyards to the back of Bob's house. No one even missed me. I would like to take credit for Bob's death, but I cannot. It was Bob being in the wrong place at the right time, or just plain dumb luck. If he had looked both ways like his mother probably told him to as a kid, he would still be alive. No matter what I say, Kathy and her family still think I was involved. And in a way, I am sorry it was not me, but I would never have done it. I had been locked up in jail once, and I never wanted to go back, especially not to the joint up north. Anyway, by now Kathy was probably at home locking the doors, thinking she is next on my list. Am I going after her? Not a chance. I will just drop hints and innuendos until I drive her nuts and the court gives me back my kids. I will, however, tell any prospective homebuyer about the arsonist in the neighborhood who still has not been caught. You see, I like living right where I am, especially with my 2 children just up the street. Who knows? When they turn 13, they might just decide to live with their old dad. Well, I can hope. The only good thing that has happened to me during all of this was meeting someone I think I may have a future with. Her name is Ellen, and she works for the State Department of Corrections. I had to check in with her the first year after I was released to make sure I was adjusting, rehabilitated, and doing okay. Ellen is tough and takes no crap. After getting the formalities out of the way, we began to talk and found out we might have feelings for each other. Ethically, Ellen could not date me until my year of probation was up, but finally, we were able to go out on a real date. I told her I had major trust issues, and she warmed up to me by telling me that most convicts lie to her in one way or another. So now, we are both trying to move forward and deal with our trust issues together while getting to know each other better. Ellen got me thinking about what I have been doing ever since that 304 of a wife walked out on me. She showed me my actions were keeping me from having any kind of real life and meaningful relationships. She told me it was time to move on. She further convinced me when she said if I messed up and got thrown back in jail, my rear would be hers to do with as she wished. And darling, I would not wish that on my worst enemy, she explained with a smile that made the hair on the back of my neck stand straight up. And you know what? I believe her. I really do. When I am with her, she keeps things interesting because as tough as I think I am, Ellen is one lady I would never cross. Even better, though, is knowing in my heart she would never cross me either. I think I am finally ready to move on with my life and open myself up to love once again.